Hello, hi, and welcome all of you. So we are here with the solutions of CLAT 2022 पेपर. So CLAT 2022 पेपर का सॉल्यूशन क्यों ज़रूरी है? बेसिकली आप सभी लोगों को पता होगा कि दो तरीके के वॉरियर्स होते हैं और जब हमको कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम में जो है compete करना है बहुत से लोगों के बीच में, तो एक वॉर से कम नहीं है ये. So जब दो तरीके के वॉरियर्स होते हैं तो वो कौन से दो तरीके के वॉरियर्स होते हैं? एक होते हैं स्मार्ट वॉरियर्स, जिनको हर चीज़ जो खुद की है, खुद की वीकनेस और खुद की स्ट्रेंथ्स पता है और वो कोशिश करते हैं कि सामने वाले की भी वीकनेस और स्ट्रेंथ्स हमको पता हो, तो वो होते हैं स्मार्ट वॉरियर्स. और एक होते हैं नॉर्मल वॉरियर्स जो सिर्फ खुद की ही प्रैक्टिस पे बिलीव करते हैं. दे डज नॉट टेक द एडवांटेज ऑफ अदर्स वीकनेस और अदर्स कंपीटिटर्स स्ट्रेंथ. तो बेसिकली हमको बनना है स्मार्ट वॉरियर्स. एंड इफ यू आर वॉचिंग दिस वीडियो देन आई एम डेफिनेटली वेरी मच श्योर दैट यू पीपल आर स्मार्ट वॉरियर्स, क्योंकि आपको पता है कि आपकी स्ट्रैटेजी जो है वो क्लैट के प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन पेपर्स के ऊपर बेस्ड होने वाली है. नाउ coming to this analysis of CLAT 2022 paper, so it was a very well designed paper. Basically it also contained 5 to 6 passages and with 5 questions each of the following for each of the passages. Now let's have a look at what is each and every passage of this particular question paper is saying and try to analyze. I'll try to demonstrate to you what is the meaning of each and every line basically in the limited time. Okay, now let's start with analyzing this particular paper and particular passage basically. So public speaking is a powerful real life skill. कि भाई पब्लिक स्पीकिंग जो है वो एक बहुत ही पावरफुल रियल लाइफ स्किल है. Over the centuries, impressive speeches made by people from various walks of lives have helped to change hearts, minds and shape of the world as we see it today. Now basically when it is saying that from various walks of life, so various walks of life का actually meaning क्या है? It means from different arenas of life, from different areas of life. That is what is called as various walks of life. So have helped to change hearts, minds and shape the world as we see it today. Speeches that are delivered with intense emotions and conviction. Conviction means determination. कि भाई किसी चीज को कंपेल करे कि वो आपको माने ही माने, आप जो कह रहे हैं उसको सच्चा माने. That is called as with conviction. Can infuse compassion and forgiveness. Infuse means can inflict, can have compassion and forgiveness, elevate levels of hatred and destruction. यहाँ पर जो है स्पीच अगर बहुत ही ज़्यादा इंटेंस इमोशंस के साथ दी है, कन्विक्शन के साथ दी है, तो क्या क्या चीज़ें इन्फ्यूज़ कर सकता है, क्या क्या चीज़ें जो है इन्फ्लिक्ट कर सकता है किसी और के अंदर, तो वो है या तो वो कंपैशन और फॉरगिवनेस इन्फ्लिक्ट कर सकता है, कंपैशन और फॉरगिवनेस जो है वो इंड्यूस कर सकता है, एलिवेट कर सकता है द लेवल्स ऑफ हेट्रेड एंड डिस्ट्रक्शन. अगर जो स्पीच है, अगर वो प्रोवोकेटिव स्पीच, तो आपकी हेट्रेड और डिस्ट्रक्शन वाली जो इमोशंस हैं उनको एलिवेट कर देगा. एलिवेट करने का मतलब क्या होता है? इंक्रीज कर देगा उस तरीके के इमोशंस को. ब्रेक और यूनाइट नेशन के भाई स्पीच में इतनी ज्यादा ताकत होती है, इतनी ज्यादा स्ट्रेंथ होती है कि वो या तो नेशंस को ब्रेक कर सकता है या फिर नेशंस को यूनाइट भी कर सकता है. सो बेसिकली इट इज डिस्क्राइबिंग द पावर ऑफ पब्लिक स्पीकिंग. और बेसिकली पब्लिक स्पीकिंग भी नहीं, बेसिकली के स्पीकिंग स्किल्स जो है वो कितनी ज्यादा पावरफुल हो सकती है. ऑथर इज डिस्क्राइबिंग ऑल दैट इन दिस फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ. Then it is saying, on October 5 in 1877 in the mountains of Montana Territory, when Chief Joseph surrendered to General Nelson A. Miles, the former gave a surrender speech. Now जब हम बात करते हैं फॉर्मर की, so most of you people have not known कि भाई फॉर्मर का मतलब क्या होता है. जब हम दो सब्जेक्ट्स की बात कर रहे हैं या दो टॉपिक्स की बात कर रहे हैं, तो एक को हम फॉर्मर लैटर बोलते हैं, तो फॉर्मर का मतलब होता है कि भाई वो वाला सब्जेक्ट जिसकी बात हम लोगों ने पहले की है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज फॉर्मर. सो यहाँ पर इन 1877 द माउंटेन्स ऑफ मोंटाना टेरिटरी वेयर चीफ जोसेफ सरेंडर्ड. सो यहाँ पर चीफ जोसेफ जो है वो फर्स्ट सब्जेक्ट है यहाँ पर, और सेकंड सब्जेक्ट इज जनरल नेल्सन ए माइल्स. तो यहाँ पर जो फॉर्मर की बात है, ये फॉर्मर जो है वो किसको इंडिकेट या किसको डायरेक्ट कर रहा है, इट इज डायरेक्टिंग दिस चीफ जोसेफ. एंड कॉमन सेंस भी है कि यहाँ पर बोला है कि उन्होंने सरेंडर कर लिया टू दिस जनरल माइल्स. इट मीन्स कि यहाँ पर जो सरेंडर स्पीच देगा वो जनरल माइल्स नहीं देने वाले हैं. सरेंडर स्पीच कौन देंगे, चीफ जोसेफ देने वाले हैं. नाउ द स्पीच कंक्लूडेड दीज वर्ड्स. स्पीच में ये वर्ड्स है, इट इज not giving the whole of the speech, whole of the surrender speech that Joseph has given, but it is just giving the excerpt from that speech. So it is cold and we have no blankets. The little children are freezing to death. I want time to look for my children and see how many of them I can find. So basically it is describing out that cold weather there and the crisis these people were facing in that condition. Now maybe I shall find them among the dead. Hear me, my chiefs, I am tired. My heart is sick and sad. From where the sun now stands, I will fight no more forever. So यहाँ पर basically क्या कह रहा है कि अब मुझे fighting नहीं चाहिए. I don't want to fight more now. My heart is sick and sad. यहाँ पर जब ये कह रहा है my heart is sick and sad, it simply means he is basically devastated from his हार्ट. वो बेसिकली उसका जो दिल है वो टूट चुका है. दिल जो है वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा दुखी है. अगर हम बात करें कि भाई वो अपनी स्पीच में क्या कहना चाह रहा है, ही इज़ जस्ट सेइंग दैट ही इज़ वेरी मच सैडेंड बिकॉज ऑफ दिस थिंग. वो वहाँ पर अपने बच्चों से नहीं मिल पा रहा है और उसको ये भी नहीं पता है उसके बच्चे का है. शायद उसको ऐसा लग रहा है कि शायद जो है मुझे अपने बच्चों को डेड लोगों में ढूंढना चाहिए. ही इज सेइंग दैट मे बी आई शैल फाइंड देम अमंग द डेड, कि क्या पता मुझे डेड लोगों के अंदर मेरे बच्चे मिल जाए. देन इट इज सेइंग द हार्ट रेंचिंग स्पीच बैड द ग्रीफ एंड मिजरी ऑफ द स्पीकर. सो यहाँ पर जो हार्ट रेंचिंग स्पीच है, इट बार्ड द ग्रीफ एंड मिजरी ऑफ द स्पीकर एंड दो सब्जेक्टेड टू ओवरवेलमिंग हार्डशिप. सो यहाँ पर ये हार्ट रेंचिंग स्पीच जो है, इसने कहीं ना कहीं ये क्या चीज़ डिस्प्ले कर रहा है या क्या चीज़ बता रहा है, इट इज़ डिस्प्लेइंग द ग्रीफ एंड मिजरी ऑफ द स्पीकर. जो दुख और जो तकलीफ है जो स्पीकर को, वो ये स्पीच बता रही है. एंड दो सब्जेक्टेड टू ओवरवेलमिंग हार्डशिप, और वो लोग जिन्होंने ओवरवेलमिंग का मतलब क्या होता है, दैट इज नॉट अंडर कंट्रोल, सच थिंग्स जो कि कंट्रोल में नहीं है, जो कि बहुत ज्यादा है, एक्सेसिव है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज ओवरवेलमिंग. ओवरवेलमिंग इमोशंस हो सकते हैं, ओवरवेलमिंग हैप्पीनेस हो सकती है. सो यहाँ पर ओवरवेलमिंग किस चीज़ के लिए है, हार्डशिप के लिए. हार्डशिप का मतलब जो बहुत ही ज़्यादा दुख या तकलीफ होती है, दैट इज रेफर टू एज हार्डशिप. नाउ ड्यूरिंग वर्ल्ड वॉर सेकेंड द स्पीच वी शैल फाइट ऑन द बीचेस डिलीवर्ड बाय विंस्टन चर्चिल ऑन जून 4, 1940 इज कंसिडर्ड अ हाई पावर्ड स्पीच. सो बेसिकली अभी तक हम लोगों ने देखा तो यहाँ पर एडिटर या ऑथर क्या कर रहा है, द ऑथर इज जस्ट trying to demonstrate different type of speeches, different type of rhetorics, different types of orations that एंड देयर पावर. बेसिकली उनकी पावर बता रहा है, या फिर वो किस तरह से जो डिफरेंट स्पीचेस है वो क्या कन्वे करती है एक्चुअली. दैट इज व्हाट द ऑथर इज ट्राइंग टू डिस्प्ले हियर. नेक्स्ट इट इज सेइंग इज कंसिडर्ड अ हाई पावर्ड स्पीच दैट स्ट्रेंथेंड द डिटर्मिनेशन ऑफ दोज प्रेजेंट इन द हाउस ऑफ कॉमन्स. बेसिकली इट वाज अ मोटिवेटिंग स्पीच. Now in the speech he said, even through large tracts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of Nazi rule, we shall not flag or fail. We shall go to the end. We shall fight in the France, we shall fight on the seas, on the oceans, and these are the words of Winston Churchill basically. So here we can say that anaphora is used first. Firstly यहाँ पर anaphora use हो रहा है. Why? Because the same type of word is being repeated each and every time and at the same position in the sentence. That is why we can say that anaphora is being used here. Secondly, we can say that while going through the speech, we can say that it is more or less a motivating soliloquy, or you can say a motivating speech. It is a motivating speech that is also referred here as a high powered speech. So यहाँ पर बेसिकली एक तरह से प्रोवोक करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, लोगों को मोटिवेट करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि हमको तो लड़ना ही है. We have to fight and we have no way else. Next, it is saying in 1950, William Faulkner was honored with a Nobel Prize for his significant contribution to the American novel. This was the time when Soviet Union had found the possible implications of the use of atomic bomb and people had begun to live in the fear of annihilation. Now, what is meant by annihilation? Annihilation का मतलब क्या होता है? किसी भी तरीके से कभी भी कोई जो है कोई भी तरीके की सफरिंग्स हो सकती है, उसको हम क्या कहते हैं? Annihilations. So what it is saying, this was the time when Soviet Union had found the possible implications for the use of atomic bomb. कि भाई atomic bomb का हम use किस तरह से कर सकते हैं, उसके implications क्या हो सकते हैं. Soviet Union has found that and people had begun to live in the fear of annihilation. In his Nobel Prize acceptance speech, Faulkner urged writers of various genres to think and write beyond the fear of destruction. So यहाँ पर what it is saying that Faulkner ने जो है urge किया. Urge means he requested the writers of various genres to think and write beyond the fear of destruction. ये कोई destruction होने वाला है, इस डर से अगर हम इस डर से हमको लिखना नहीं है, बल्कि उस डर से जीत कर या फिर उस डर के बियॉन्ड हमको लिखना है. उस डर के बारे में बिल्कुल भी नहीं सोचना है और सिर्फ हमको जो है उस डर के बियॉन्ड जाके कुछ लिखना है, कुछ सोचना है. Now and instead write materials that would lift the human spirit. कि भाई डिस्ट्रक्शन वाली चीज़ों के डर से अगर हम लिखेंगे तो ये नहीं चलेगा. हमको कुछ ऐसा लिखना है जो कि कहीं ना कहीं लोगों के लिए मोटिवेटिंग हो, कहीं ना कहीं लोगों के लिए इंस्पायर. Now the powerful message included, I believe that man will not merely endure, he will prevail. He is immortal not because he is alone among the creatures, has an inexhaustible voice, but he has a soul, a spirit capable of compassion and sacrifice and endurance. What he is trying to say कि I believe that man will not merely endure, कि सिर्फ वो जिएगा नहीं बल्कि वो जिंदा रहेगा. ही विल प्रिवेल. ही इज इमॉर्टल क्योंकि वो ऐसा नहीं है कि जो नश्वर है. ही इज नॉट इमॉर्टल. ही इज इमॉर्टल कि भाई वो मर नहीं सकता है. ही इज इमॉर्टल नॉट बिकॉज ही इज अलोन अमंग द क्रिएचर दैट हैज इनएग्जॉस्टिबल वॉइस. यहाँ पर इसलिए क्योंकि उसकी जो वॉइस है वो कभी भी खत्म नहीं होगी. अगर हम बात करते हैं इनएग्जॉस्टिबल की, इनएग्जॉस्टिबल मीन्स अनटायरिंग, समथिंग दैट वुड नॉट एंड that too soon, that is called as inexhaustible. But he has a soul. It means that human being has a soul, human being has a spirit and is capable of compassion. The human being is capable of compassion, sacrifice and endurance, means he is very much durable. Next it is saying the poet's, the writer's duty is to write about these things. It is his privilege to help men endure by lifting his heart, by reminding him of the courage and honor and hope and pride and compassion and pity and sacrifice which have been the glories of his past. So Faulkner है, Faulkner is just saying that कि यहाँ पर अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं तो मैं बहुत ही खुश हूँ. यहाँ पर जो पोएट है या राइटर है, ये उनकी ड्यूटी है कि वो लोगों को याद दिलाए कि यहाँ पर ह्यूमन बीइंग का पास जो है वो किस तरह से इवॉल्व होके आज ह्यूमन बीइंग जैसा है वैसा वो बना है. तो यहाँ पर उसने बोला है कि ये हमारे पोएट्स का, राइटर्स का ये ड्यूटी है कि हम उन लोगों को उनकी चीज़ों के बारे में, उनकी स्ट्रेंथ्स के बारे में याद दिलाए, उनकी वीकनेस के बारे में याद दिलाए और वीकनेस से भी ज़्यादा उनकी स्ट्रेंथ्स के बारे में याद दिलाए, ताकि उनका हार्ट हार्ट जो है वो बूस्ट अप हो, ताकि वो एनकरेज हो जाए. नाउ द पोएट्स वॉइस नीड नॉट मर्ली द रिकॉर्ड ऑफ मैन, इट कैन बी वन ऑफ द props, the pillars to help him endure and prevail. He is saying that poet's voice need not merely the record of the man. यहाँ पर poet की voice को सिर्फ जो है ह्यूमन का पास्ट कैसा रहा है, उसका रिकॉर्ड कैसा रहा है, सिर्फ यही चीज़ों की ज़रूरत नहीं होती है. अगर उसको किसी को इनकरेज करना है, अगर उसको प्रिवेल करना है, देन ही कैन बी देन इट कैन बी वन ऑफ एनी ऑफ द प्रॉप्स. वो कोई भी प्रॉप्स यूज़ कर सकता है. इसका मतलब वो कोई भी सब्जेक्ट यूज़ कर सकता है जिससे वो ह्यूमन स्पिरिट को जो है एनकरेज कर सके. एंड पिलर्स टू हेल्प हिम एंड्योर एंड प्रिवेल. So this was the whole passage basically, and it is describing the different types of speech along with the examples. So now let's have a look at the last passage, last paragraph. Undoubtedly, effective speeches have a long-lasting impact on the minds of the listeners, and they elevate the levels of awareness or actions of the speaker intends to raise or कैटलाइज. सो अगेन लास्टली यहाँ पर इसने सम अप कर दिया है कि यहाँ पर पूरा पैसेज इज अबाउट द इफेक्टिव स्पीचेस. जो इफेक्टिव स्पीचेस है, जिनका स्पीचेस जिनका इफेक्ट बहुत ही ज़्यादा लॉन्ग लास्टिंग रहता है ऑन द माइंड्स ऑफ द लिसनर्स, जो उनको सुनते हैं. एंड एलिवेट द लेवल्स ऑफ अवेयरनेस और एक्शंस द स्पीकर इंटेंड्स टू रेज और कैटलाइज. के स्पीकर जिस चीज़ को रेज करना चाहता है, जिस चीज़ को एलिवेट करना चाहता है, जिस चीज़ को बूस्टअप करना चाहता है, तो स्पीच जो है उसको उस चीज़ को कन्वे करने के लिए बहुत ही ज़्यादा हेल्पफुल रहती है. सो बेसिकली यू कैन से that it is more or less a passage of speech. यहाँ पर अगर हम सेंट्रल आइडिया देखें बेसिकली पैसेज का, सो पैसेज का सेंट्रल आइडिया किस पे बेस्ड होगा? पैसेज का सेंट्रल आइडिया इफेक्टिव स्पीचेस पर बेस्ड होगा, क्योंकि पूरे ही पैसेज में इफेक्टिव स्पीच के बारे में ही बताया है. वेदर इट इज़ हाई स्पिरिटेड स्पीच, यहाँ पर मोटिवेटिंग स्पीच हो सकती है, सरेंडर स्पीच के बारे में बताया है. सो बेसिकली इट इज़ डिस्क्राइबिंग डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ स्पीचेस. नाउ कमिंग टू द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन. सो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन देख लेते हैं. व्हाट डज द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन सेज? द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन सेज द मेन आइडिया ऑफ द पैसेज इज. पैसेज का मेन आइडिया यहाँ पर क्या है? ऑप्शन ए, ऑल लीडर्स शुड बी अकम्प्लिश्ड पब्लिक स्पीकर्स. यहाँ पर सारे ही लीडर्स जो है वो एक कंप्लीट पब्लिक स्पीकर्स होने चाहिए. क्या ये मेन आइडिया है? नो, लीडर्स की बात यहाँ पर नहीं हुई है. यहाँ पर पोएट्स की भी बात हुई है, राइटर्स की भी बात हुई है. सो ऑप्शन ए इज नॉट द करेक्ट वन. ऑप्शन बी, एन इम्पैक्टफुल स्पीच कैन कन्वे अ स्ट्रॉन्ग मैसेज टू द लिसनर्स. दिस कुड बी द सेंट्रल आइडिया ऑफ द पैसेज. यहाँ पर पैसेज का सेंट्रल आइडिया ये हो सकता है कि स्ट्रॉन्ग मैसेज जो है वो कन्वे कर सकती है एक इम्पैक्टफुल स्पीच. Option C, a speech should sound pleasing to the ears of the listeners. This should not always happen. जब कोई स्पीच ज़रूरी नहीं है, कभी कभार किसी को प्रोवोक करने के लिए ऐसी स्पीच भी देनी पड़ती है जो कि शायद लिसनर्स को सुनने में एक बार अच्छी नहीं लगे. So such kind of speeches are called as incendiary or provocative speeches. So option C is also not the correct one. Option D, public speakers should be bold and argumentative. Who has said this, that he should be bold and argumentative? जब वहाँ पर सरेंडर स्पीच की बात हो रही थी, सरेंडर स्पीच was not that much bold or argumentative. So we cannot say that the central idea is option D. The correct answer that encompasses all the aspects of this passage is option B. An impactful speech can convey a strong message to the listeners. Coming to the next question, what does the next question see? Next question says that what is the tone of the speech of the surrender speech? Option A, satiric. Option B, optimistic. Option C, poignant. And option D, narcissistic. Now those who don't know the meaning of these words, satiric का मतलब होता है somewhat sarcastic in nature, somewhat ironical in nature. That is called as satirical. Coming to optimistic, optimistic means positive type of speech. So जब surrender speech उसने बोली थी, it was not at all positive. Poignant means touching, emotional, sad. And that speech, surrender speech, contained all these characteristics. And lastly, narcissistic. Narcissistic means someone who is conceit, someone who has pride in. So it was not a pride-loaded speech. Pride-loaded speech nahi thi, surrender speech. It was more or less poignant speech. So we can say the correct answer to this question is option C, that the speech was poignant. Coming to the next question, what does the next question says? It is evident that through his speech, Churchill wished to dash his countrymen. Now, Winston Churchill की बात हो रही है जो उसने speech दी थी just to encourage his countrymen. So यहाँ पर उस चीज की बात हो रही है. So what it is saying? Option A, inform, and second blank में आएगा about the challenges that arise in the war-torn country, warn against the futility of war, remind how their endeavors to fight against the Nazi rule has failed miserably. वहाँ पर वो किसी भी तरीके से countrymen को discourage नहीं कर रहा था. He was just trying to encourage the countrymen. Now, encourage करना है countrymen को, वॉर के लिए कंट्रीमैन को एनकरेज करना है. तो यहाँ पर कोई भी जो वॉर के लिए एनकरेज करेगा तो वॉर की फ्यूटिलिटी के बारे में नहीं बताएगा. फ्यूटिलिटी मीन्स पॉइंटलेसनेस. फ्यूटिलिटी सिंपली मीन्स पॉइंटलेसनेस, अनवर्दी. दैट इज कॉल्ड एज फ्यूटिलिटी और फ्यूटाइल. सो वॉर्न नहीं कर रहा था वो. About the challenges that arise in the war-torn country, challenges के बारे में भी नहीं बोल रहा था वो. Okay, he was not trying to tell about the challenges. He was just trying to raise the spirits of his countrymen. So यहाँ पर option A is also not the correct answer. Option C, remind how their endeavors to fight against the Nazi rule had failed miserably. Now, what do you people think? अगर कोई war के लिए किसी को provoke करेगा तो यहाँ पर उसके failures के बारे में बात करेगा? बिल्कुल भी नहीं करेगा. So option C is also not the correct answer. Option D, reassure that they would combat fiercely against their enemy under all circumstances. This is what was the element of Winston Churchill's speech. So we can say that correct answer to this question is option D here. Next question, what does the next question says? Which of the following is the least likely to be used to describe Churchill? चर्चिल को डिस्क्राइब करने के लिए इनमें से कौन सा लीस्ट लाइकली है? ऑप्शन ए रिजोल्यूट, ऑप्शन बी अनडॉन्टेड, ऑप्शन सी कंप्लेसेंट एंड ऑप्शन डी अनवेवरिंग. सो यहाँ पर अगर हम बात करते हैं रिजोल्यूट, ही वॉज वेरी मच रिजोल्यूट. रिजोल्यूट मीन्स डिटरमाइंड. Similar is this word undaunted. Similar is this word unwavering. And so we have to find the odd one out, and here only this word complacent. Complacent का मतलब होता है someone who is not that much determined is called as complacent. Someone who is very much flexible according to the situation is called as complacent. Someone who wants peace is called as complacent. So the correct answer to this question is option C, because the question is asking least likely. Least likely का मतलब होता है कि जो बहुत ही कम तरीके से विंस्टन चर्चिल को समझा सकता है. जब हम बोल रहे हैं रिजोल्यूट है, अनडॉन्टेड है, अनवेवरिंग है, तो ये सारी ही चीजें जो है उसकी स्पीच के अकॉर्डिंग हम कह सकते हैं कि सारी ही चीजें उसको बहुत अच्छे से डिस्क्राइब करती है. सिर्फ एक ही वर्ड है जो उसको बहुत अच्छे से डिस्क्राइब नहीं करता है, एंड दैट इज complacent. Coming to the next question, what does the next question says? In the sentence, the poet's voice need not merely be the record of man, it can be one of the props, the pillars to help him endure and prevail. Faulkner has used to convey the power of the poet's writing. यहाँ पर जो power है poet's writing का, तो इसके लिए फॉकनर ने किस चीज का या किस लिटरेरी डिवाइस का यूज किया है? ऑप्शन ए, अ मेटाफर. Option B, a simile. Simile means that like or as must be used in order to express something as a simile. So यहाँ पर like और as का use नहीं है, so we cannot say that it is a simile. Onomatopoeia means sound like words. Words that mimics real sound, that is called as onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is also not there. Coming to option D, a transferred epithet. Now what is meant by transferred epithet is when the epithet that belong to human or that belong to any other thing is transferred to other thing that does not have that attributes is called as transferred epithet. So यहाँ पर ऐसे attributes जो कि किसी के नहीं belong कर रहे हैं उसको transfer कर दिया गया है, वो यहाँ पर कहीं भी देखने को नहीं मिल रहा है. So it is not transferred epithet. The only thing we are left here is with answer A, that is metaphor. यहाँ पर जो इस तरह के phrases होते हैं basically they are usually called as metaphor. Okay, next passage that was there in your question paper was of 2022 was As a 6-year-old child beggar, Saru slept off in a stationary train in Khandwa, Madhya Pradesh. However, when he woke up, he found himself in the empty compartment of a train thundering towards Kolkata, where he spent a couple of weeks in a state of panic and hopelessness. So basically, finally, he ended up in a local government adoption center, from where he was adopted by an Australian couple. 25 years later, Saru felt the urge to trace his biological mother and see in what state she lived. So basically, this particular story is about Saru. सरू के बारे में स्टोरी है, जो एक रात को एक दिन जो है एक स्टेशनरी ट्रेन जो स्टेशनरी थी, मतलब कि यहाँ पर एक ट्रेन जो रुकी हुई थी, वहाँ उसके कंपार्टमेंट में सरू जो है वो सो गए. एंड शी वेंट टू, जो ट्रेन रुकी हुई थी दैट वाज इन खंडवा मध्य प्रदेश. एंड जब वो उठी तब उसको पता चला कि यहाँ पर ये जो ट्रेन है वो कोलकाता की तरफ रवाना हो गई है. फाइनली वो वहाँ पर उसने कुछ दिन बिताए एंड शी वॉज सेंट टू द अडॉप्शन सेंटर, गवर्नमेंट अडॉप्शन सेंटर. वहाँ से एक ऑस्ट्रेलियन कपल ने उनको अडॉप्ट कर लिया. एंड यहाँ पर 25 years के बाद, after 25 years, now 6 years old child that was, and then directly about after 25 years, so यहाँ पर 25 years के बाद जो है उसको लगा that she should search for her biological mother, the mother who has given him birth. So यहाँ पर उसको जो है अर्ज लगी कि भाई अपनी बायोलॉजिकल मदर को ढूंढना चाहिए. एंड देन यहाँ पर शी ट्रेस्ड her biological mother. Relentlessly, he used Google's satellite feature to map the parts of the country that could have possibly in his own hometown. The search was a long and arduous one. Nevertheless, the perseverance did pay. Arduous means very much tiring. That is called as arduous. That requires very much effort is called as arduous. Very much determination is called as perseverance. One eventful day he met his mother. Thereafter he continued to keep in touch with her. उसके बाद उसको मदर मिल गई और उसके बाद उनसे कांटेक्ट में जो है वो कंटिन्यू रहा. Now if technology can unite people with their loved ones, it can also make them distant. The unlimited variety of applications available to toddlers, teenagers, adults might have revolutionized their lives for the better, but these very apps have snatched away the joys of long nature walks. They have encroached upon the time space that people earlier used to have for physical interaction. They have drilled deep chasms of loneliness in the lives of countless numbers of people. Chasms means holes. They have drilled deep holes of loneliness into the lives of countless numbers of people. यहाँ पर when it is saying, when the author is writing that the apps have snatched away the joys of long walks. So snatched away is a feature of human beings. It is given to these apps. So we can say here that personification have been used here. Here the correct answer or the correct literary device that should be used here is personification basically. क्योंकि यहाँ पर starting जो है वो author ने कैसे की, by admiring technology and the use of technology. Then the author is saying that technology has many multifold benefits, but it has some disadvantages too, and then he is describing the disadvantages in this particular paragraph. Next it is saying simple pleasures of life include visiting friends, relatives, paying matches in open spaces, interacting with people in markets, public libraries and clubs. However, with escalating rage of using apps like those for social media, playing virtual games and home delivery services. Now escalating rage means escalating use, elevating use, increased. Escalating rage means increased excitement of using apps like those for social media, playing virtual games and home delivery service. Again यहाँ पर author जो है वो vouch कर रहा है that you should give time apart from technology to social interaction basically. Then it is again describing के apps में जो है हम क्या क्या चीज़ें देखते हैं. Joyous moments are fading into oblivion and the pall of loneliness is getting heavier by the day. Pall of loneliness means the burden of loneliness is called as pall of loneliness is getting heavier by the day. Where are we heading to? Are we going to allow ourselves to be swamped by apps? To be swamped means to be swamped by apps, means to be swept by apps. Are we going to allow social media to engulf us in a deluge of loneliness and isolation? Are we going to drive ourselves to a situation that will ultimately demand mental and physical therapies to regain normalcy? So here the author is having a questioning attitude. बेसिकली ऑथर का जो एटीट्यूड है वो क्वेश्चनिंग एटीट्यूड है कि क्या हम लोग इस चीज के लिए रेडी हैं? आर वी रेडी फॉर ऑल दीज थिंग्स? नाउ डू वी नॉट नो दैट फिजिकल इंटरेक्शन इज एसेंशियल फॉर मेंटल हेल्थ एज फूड एंड वाटर इज फॉर फिजिकल हेल्थ? Now, earlier social isolation was mostly experienced by some of the elderly people who were devoid of an occupation and bereft of the company of their loved ones. So यहाँ पर basically क्या कह रहा है कि पहले के ज़माने में अगर बात करें हम, तो वहाँ पर वो जो बुजुर्ग लोग होते थे जिनको पास कोई ऑक्यूपेशन नहीं होता था, तो वहाँ पर वो लव्ड वंस जो है उनके साथ इतना इंटरेक्शन नहीं करते थे, तो उनको वहाँ पर एक सोशल आइसोलेशन महसूस होता था, सोशल आइसोलेशन एक्सपीरियंस करते थे. बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली टुडे एन अनहेल्दी सॉलिट्यूड प्रिवेल्स अमंग न्यूमरस चिल्ड्रन. कि एक बहुत ही अनहेल्दी सा सॉलिट्यूड या अनहेल्दी सी एक जो है चीज़ जो है वो प्रिवेल कर रही है. प्रिवेल का मतलब कि वो परसिस्ट कर रही है न्यूमरस चिल्ड्रंस में, टीनेजर्स में, इनफैक्ट अडल्ट्स में भी. सब्सिक्वेंटली देयर इज एन अलार्मिंग इंक्रीज इन द डिमांड ऑफ मेंटल हेल्थ थेरेपी प्रैक्टिशनर्स. कि यहाँ पर क्योंकि इतनी ज़्यादा ऐप्स यूज़ हो रही है, क्योंकि इतना ज़्यादा सब फ़ोन पर बिजी है, तो एक मेंटल हेल्थ थेरेपी की डिमांड, मेंटल हेल्थ थेरेपी प्रैक्टिशनर्स की डिमांड बहुत ज़्यादा इंक्रीज हो गई है. द नेसेसिटी ऑफ एंगेजिंग साइकोलॉजिस्ट इन स्कूल colleges is evidently on the rise. Psychologists are required to identify and address the learning and behavioral needs of students who approach them for guidance. Moreover, if required, the professionals are expected to help them in strengthening their emotional, social and academic skills. So basically ये passage जो है it is a kind of roller coaster ride. शुरू कहाँ से हुआ था? The passage has been started from कि भाई यहाँ पर टेक्नोलॉजी के एडवांटेजेस क्या है, देन कमिंग कि भाई यहाँ पर उसके डिसएडवांटेज क्या है, देन अगेन फॉलोइंग द सेम थिंग द डिसएडवांटेज ऑफ एप्स, देन अगेन the author is saying that psychologists or the need for mental health therapists are increasing because of the increased use of apps or increased use of social media or increased use of phones. Then it is saying that psychologists are recruited now in schools and they have to identify the children who are suffering from all these mental health issues. Then it is saying regardless how alarming the situation might be, it is never too late if people revert means they would get used to what they were used to do earlier, to the earlier trend of shopping offline, going for nature walks, playing outdoor games and catching up with friends in their homes or cafes more frequently. They can keep their heads firmly well above the ocean of loneliness. Here ocean of loneliness is again a metaphorical phrase. यहाँ पर क्या बोला है कि अगर हम जो है वापस से जो पुराना ट्रेंड था जब हमारे पास फोन नहीं हुआ करते थे, उस पुराने ट्रेंड की तरफ अगर हम वापस चले जाएं, then it would be beneficial for us. So here in this particular passage, author is trying to just be suggestive. He is just portraying some suggestions that he believe would work here. So यहाँ पर coming back to the tone of the passage. So अगर हम passage की tone देखें तो basically author जो है वो discuss कर रहा है about the advantages and disadvantages firstly. Second यहाँ पर जो है ये suggestive भी हो रहा है. So you can say it is more or less a suggestive kind of passage or an alarming passage. Now coming to the first question from this passage. From the passage it is evident that Saru's desire to find his mother. So very easy question कि भाई Saru's desire to find his mother, option A, ended up being a distant dream. तो यहाँ पर ended up being distant dream का मतलब कि वो सपना ही रह गया. That has not happened. Inspired him to use Google's satellite feature intermittently. Intermittently means in certain breaks. That is called as intermittently. So in certain breaks नहीं. It was already said here that the search was arduous and and his perseverance succeeded. So it was arduous. It means he has not used it intermittently. He had continuously used this Google satellite feature. Waned as time went by. Waned means faded as time went by. So no, this was also not there. The correct answer is option D. Did not slacken till he succeeded. Slacken means that it was not held by some laziness, या फिर हम कह सकते हैं कि एकदम रिलैक्स हो गए, तो ऐसा नहीं हुआ था. Did not slacken till he succeeded. बिल्कुल भी कमज़ोर नहीं पड़ा, बिल्कुल भी weaken up नहीं हुआ till he succeeded. Slacken means weaken. Next question that was there related to this passage in the sentence, these very apps have snatched away the joys of nature walks the author has. यहाँ पर जो बोला है कि भी snatched away the joys of long nature walk. Again, I have already told you that snatched is actually personification of apps. ये भाई apps को personify कर लिया है. So the correct answer is option C here. Coming back to the next question, from the passage one can conclude that. Now it is asking, it is a conclusion based passage कि पूरे passage का conclusion क्या निकल सकता है. So option A, it is impossible for people to reduce the usage of apps. No. There is a direct correlation between loneliness and excessive usage of social media apps. If we are to look upon the last two paragraphs of this passage, or 2 to 3 paragraphs of this passage, we would able to identify that this particular thing was there in the passage. Mostly जो 2 से 3 पैराग्राफ है वो वहाँ पर वो सिर्फ लोनलीनेस के बारे में थे and excessive usage of social media apps के बारे में थे. So this could be the conclusion of this passage. The usage of technology is as essential for mental health. No, the author denies this fact. So we cannot say that it was the conclusion of the passage. Option D, all senior citizens are lonely because they are not tech savvy. No, all senior citizens are lonely because they do not have occupation. That's why they are bereft of their loved ones. So we can say that option D is also not the correct one. So correct answer is option B here. Coming to the next question of this passage, what does the next question says? From the passage it can be inferred that presently in many educational institutes, कि यहाँ पर passage से हम infer कर सकते हैं. So we can say it is inference based question. Inference or observation based question basically. So what could you observe from this passage? Option A, the number of teachers who pass the buck of psychologists is on the rise. Option B, special emphasis is laid on mental and emotional health of the students. Option C, the usage of educational apps is being discouraged significantly. So this could not be any of the thing that we can say that was the inference of the passage. So option C should not be there. Option D, all the students feel the need to be counseled by psychologists. Not all the students, only those students who need psychologist help must be counseled by psychologists. So the correct answer to this question is option A, the number of teachers who pass the buck to psychologists is on the rise. This should not be the answer. Option B, special emphasis is laid on the mental and emotional health of the students. Because यहाँ पर के भाई पैसेज में बोला है कि अभी जो एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं वो यहाँ पर किस चीज़ पे ज़्यादा जो है डिग ऑन कर रहे हैं या किस चीज़ पे ज़्यादा ध्यान दे रहे हैं. So they are basically having special emphasis on mental and emotional health of the students. Coming to the last question that follows this passage. So the concluding paragraph of the given passage, the writer's tone can be best described as, कि अगर हम concluding paragraph की तरफ देखें जो इस passage का है तो writer की जो tone है वो किस तरह की है. Option है optimistic, could be that. Despairing means कि भाई वो sad है, किसी चीज़ को लेकर despaired है, या disappointed है तो नहीं, disappointed नहीं है. We cannot say that he was laudatory or apologetic. He was just saying that कि अगर हम ये चीज़ें करें तो यहाँ पर जो है हम काफ़ी हद तक इस चीज़ को सही कर सकते हैं कि भाई लोनलीनेस ख़त्म हो जाएगी और अगर हम रिवर्ट बैक करेंगे then it would be very beneficial for us. So we can say that it is more or less an optimistic type of tone that was there in the last paragraph or concluding paragraph of this passage. Then comes this particular passage that was again given to you. So wash your hands. That's been safety mantra ever since the pandemic COVID-19 began swamping the world. So this passage is about COVID-19 और उसी चीज़ में यहाँ पर ये describe कर रहा है. Now let's see what is there in the passage. So undoubtedly washing hands has proven to be the best way to keep germs at bay. So यहाँ पर when the author is saying basically undoubtedly का मतलब क्या है कि ऑथर उस चीज को सपोर्ट कर रहा है, ऑथर इज सपोर्टिंग दिस थिंग, एंड अनफॉर्चुनेटली इट मीन्स ही इज नॉट सपोर्टिंग दिस थिंग. कि यहाँ पर अनफॉर्चुनेटली द मेडिकल प्रैक्टिशनर हु फर्स्ट प्रमोटेड द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ द सिंपल एक्टिविटी वॉज सब्जेक्टेड टू इंटेंस ह्यूमिलिएशन एंड अल्टीमेटली डिक्लेयर्ड इनसेन. सो यहाँ पर अनडाउटेडली इसका मतलब वो वॉशिंग हैंड्स को सपोर्ट कर रहा है. अनफॉर्चुनेटली जिस प्रैक्टिशनर ने ये बताया था तो उसके साथ अच्छा नहीं हुआ, दैट इट इज ट्राइंग टू कन्वे हियर. सो यहाँ पर बोला है इंटेंस ह्यूमिलिएशन मीन्स हॉस्टिलिटी एंड अल्टीमेटली डिक्लेयर्ड इनसेन. इनसेन मीन्स समवन हु इज डिक्लेयर्ड इनसेन मीन्स ही इज डिक्लेयर्ड मैड. Now, Ignaz Semmelweis was a Hungarian doctor in 1847 as an obstetrician. So यहाँ पर obstetrician का मतलब क्या होता है, जो obesity related issues को handle करता है, that is called as obstetrician. He was disturbed that post delivery almost every third woman died of an unexpected malady. Unexpected malady means something that cannot be detected, something that is a disease is called as malady. So यहाँ पर ऐसी disease जो कि जिसको detect नहीं किया जा सकता है, that is called as malady. He observed that as a part of set routine, medical students and doctor would examine and study the corpses in the mortuary. Corpses means dead bodies. Corpses simply means dead bodies. In the mortuary and then come for rounds of to the maternity ward. So यहाँ पर बेसिकली क्या बोल रहे हैं कि यहाँ पर उसने कुछ ऑब्जर्वेशन की कि एक सेट रूटीन था, ऑब्जर्व किया उसने, जो कि एक सेट रूटीन था मेडिकल स्टूडेंट्स और डॉक्टर्स का, जो कि मॉर्चरी में डेड बॉडीज़ को जो है एग्जामिन करते थे और उसके बाद जो है राउंड्स पर आते थे मैटरनिटी वार्ड्स में. नाउ हियर विदाउट वॉशिंग देयर हैंड्स दे वुड एग्जामिन एक्सपेक्टेंट मदर्स. After making numerous hypotheses and observation, he was convinced that the doctors washed their hands before examining the woman in the ward. The number of deaths due to serious infection declined. Now, he shared his observation with his colleagues and many others working in the field of medicine, but unfortunately, again, though, when the author is saying unfortunately, it means कि भाई यहाँ पर जो है वो इस चीज़ से अग्री नहीं कर रहा है, या फिर यहाँ जो चीज़ है वो कह रहा है कि ये सही नहीं हुआ है. Unfortunately, he could not provide any concrete evidence to this theory. Sadly, again, author is not happy with this particular thing. Sadly, due to vehement criticism. Vehement means passionate, intense. That is called as vehement. Vehement means intense. So what it is trying to say कि यहाँ पर जो डॉक्टर थे, डॉक्टर ने एग्जामिन किया कि यहाँ पर जब विदाउट वॉशिंग हैंड्स व्हेन द मेडिकल स्टूडेंट्स और डॉक्टर्स एग्जामिनिंग द एक्सपेक्टेंट मदर्स, तब वहाँ पर इन्फेक्शन ज़्यादा बढ़ गया था. और जब उन्होंने वॉश करके एक्सपेक्टेंट मदर्स को चेक किया तो यहाँ पर सीरियस इन्फेक्शंस के जो केसेस हैं उनमें बहुत ज़्यादा डिक्लाइन हुआ, मतलब कि बहुत ज़्यादा कमी आई. देन इट इज़ सेइंग कि यहाँ पर उन्होंने ये ऑब्जर्वेशन अपने कलीग्स को शेयर किए, अपने फील्ड में जो मेडिसिन फील्ड में जो दूसरे हैं उनको शेयर किए, लेकिन किसी ने भी इस चीज़ को कंसिडर नहीं किया सीरियसली. बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली क्योंकि उसके पास कोई स्ट्रॉन्ग एविडेंस नहीं था, कॉन्क्रीट एविडेंस मीन्स स्ट्रॉन्ग एविडेंस, एंड सैडली ड्यू टू वेहेमेंट क्रिटिसिज्म दैट ही रिसीव, वेहेमेंट मीन्स इंटेंस क्रिटिसिज्म जो उसने रिसीव किया, ही वेंट इनटू डिप्रेशन. Then he went into depression. Then it is saying furthermore, Ignaz strived to prove his point so relentlessly that it led to the belief that he had lost his mind. और उसके बाद भी इग्नाज ने जो है कोशिश की अपना पॉइंट प्रूव करने के लिए भी, रिलेंटलेसली मीन्स कंटिन्यूसली, एंड इट लेड टू बिलीव दैट ही हैज लॉस्ट हिज माइंड. और लोगों को लगा कि भाई ये तो पागल हो गया है, he has lost his mind. In 1865, the doctor deceptively lured him into an asylum for the insane. So यहाँ पर क्या बोल रहा है कि डॉक्टर्स डिसेप्टिवली, डॉक्टर्स ने जो है डिसेप्टिवली धोखा दे के जो है उसको जो है असाइलम में लेके गए फॉर द इंसेन, एंड 2 weeks ऑफ द ब्रूटल ट्रीटमेंट दैट वाज मेटेड आउट टू हिम. और जो 2 week का ब्रूटल मीन्स वेरी मच क्रूअल ट्रीटमेंट जो कि उस पर करा गया, meted out to him, that was worked out to him by the attendants, led to ultimately death. Now, about 20 years later, when the world became more receptive to the works of scientists like Louis Pasteur and Joseph Lister, awareness regarding germs that cause disease began to spread. This is the time when Ignaz was honored with titles like Father of Hand Hygiene and Savior of Mothers, and honored too much too late. So, कोई भी honor जब डेथ के बाद मिलता है, so that is called as posthumously. So यहाँ पर he was honored posthumously basically, लेकिन कब? After 20 years of his death. Now, some of the most celebrated artists have earned fame much after their deaths. It is tragic that Vincent van Gogh's awe-inspiring work was labeled as strange and immature by most of the critics of his time. So basically, the author is trying to say कि जब किसी को ऑनर मिलना चाहिए तब उसको वो ऑनर नहीं मिलता है, बल्कि ये बहुत ही ज़्यादा ट्रैजिक है, बहुत ही ज़्यादा अनफॉर्चुनेट है कि उनकी डेथ के बाद जब लोगों को रियलाइज होता है नो ही वॉज राइट, देन ही इज honored. Now it is believed that he sold only 1 or 2 painting in his lifetime, and that too for a meager amount. Meager means small amount. Today every single painting of Vincent van Gogh paints is worth millions of dollars. So यहाँ पर ऑथर क्या बोल रहा है कि जब वो जिंदा थे when he was alive, तब उसने अपने पूरे लाइफ टाइम में सिर्फ 1 या 2 पेंटिंग ही बेची होगी, and that too at a very mere cost. एंड अब अगर हम विंसेंट वैन गॉग की पेंटिंग्स को खरीदने जाएं तो वहां पर इट इज वर्थ $1,000,000 bucks. Next, it is saying that Franz Kafka was a proficient writer. Proficient means he was an eminent writer. He was a very good in writing or excellent writer. That is called as proficient. So, but when he published a few pieces of his writing, he received immense criticism, and before his death in 1924, he handed over his unpublished novels and short stories to his friend Max Brod and urged him to destroy them. However, Brod got the manuscripts published. Today, Franz is acclaimed as one of the major fiction writers of the 20th century. Now, the novels titled The Trial, published in 1925, The Castle, published in 1926, are considered 2 of his masterpieces. So, isn't it ironical basically that at the time when the writer, when the doctor, when the painter, when the artist must be acknowledged for their work, they were not acknowledged that time, and after their death, or you can say posthumously, they are acknowledged. So here the author is again saying that this is the irony of this world. Now perhaps if humans were more tolerant and amenable to change, amenable means flexible to change, innovative concepts, theories and creation they deserving would live to experience the glory and honor they rightfully deserve. Agar insan, if humans were more tolerant and amenable to change, तो यहाँ पर जो उन ग्लोरी को डिजर्व करता है, द पीपल हु डिजर्व द ग्लोरी एंड ऑनर, तो वो उनको जीते जी दिया जा सकता है कि उनके मरने के बाद हम उसको एक्नॉलेज करें, मरने के बाद हम उस चीज़ को लेकर जो है उनकी तारीफ करें. सो इसकी बजाय कि वो जीते जी ही उस ग्लोरी, उस ऑनर को डिजर्व करें, उस ग्लोरी, उस ऑनर को एंजॉय करें. सो दिस वॉज द होल पैसेज अबाउट. सो यहाँ पर पूरे पैसेज में द ऑथर इज डिस्क्राइबिंग द सेम थिंग कि भाई डेथ के बाद दें, इससे अच्छा हम थोड़े से फ्लेक्सिबल हो जाएं, थोड़े से टॉलरेंट अगर हो जाएंगे हम वर्क के प्रति, देन द पीपल हु डिजर्व दीज ऑनर्स, हु डिजर्व दीज ग्लोरीज वुड एंजॉय इट when they are alive only. So coming to the first question that is based on this passage, what is the main idea of this passage? Or you can also say that it is asking you about the central idea or central theme of this passage. So the first option, all original theories and work should receive unreserved acceptance. Option B, many undeserving innovators have been honored after their demise. Not undeserving. So we cannot say that many undeserving innovators. This is the wrong option. Option C, creativity must never be inhibited. So यहाँ पर creativity को inhibit किया ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं बताया गया. Inhibit means suppressed, something that is stopped, that is called as inhibited. So this is not the central idea. Option A, all original theories and works should receive unreserved acceptance. Should receive undeserved acceptance and glories also. Option A is also not the correct one. Option D, numerous innovators have found recognition and appreciation of their works posthumously. So the correct answer is option D only. Now in the first option, that is option A is also correct, but this word posthumously, that was in most of the paragraphs that was there in the passage कि posthumously लोगों को जो है ऑनर मिला, लोगों को रिवॉर्ड मिला of their work. तो यहाँ पर ऑप्शन ए में वो चीज मेंशन नहीं है, that's why we cannot say that option A is right here. So the correct answer is option D. Next question that is related to this passage. From the passage it is evident that Dr. Ignaz's theory was rejected because option A, he could not substantiate it. वो उस चीज को जो है एकदम fulfilling evidence नहीं लेकर आ पाए. Option B, the doctors did not want him to regulate their work ethics. No, this was not there कि भाई वो regulate कर रहे थे work ethics को, doctors ये नहीं चाहते थे. Basically doctors do not know that whether what he was saying was correct or not. Option C, he had been declared insane. Yes, he has been declared insane, but not because his theory was rejected. यहाँ पर जो है passage से कि भाई उसकी theory reject हुई क्योंकि वो insane declare हो गए, तो theory आने के बाद वो insane declare हुए. theory आने से पहले he was not declared as insane. He was a very eminent doctor, so we cannot say he had been declared insane. Option D, Joseph Lister and Louis Pasteur had already discovered germs. No, but after his death, Louis Pasteur and Lister has discovered germs. So we cannot say that option D is also correct. The correct answer to this question is option A, he could not substantiate it. It means that he could not have fulfilling evidence. That's why nobody believed him. Next question. From the passage, one can conclude that the art critics who Van Gogh's works were, कि यहाँ पर जो आर्ट क्रिटिक्स थे Van Gogh's work के, वो क्या थे? Option A, applauded and pessimistic. Option B, censured and hypercritical. Option C, denounced and tolerant. And option D, acclaimed and rigid. So for this question, यहाँ पर we can say that the correct answer is that they were censured and hypercritical. They were not only critical, they were hypercritical and they were censured. We cannot say that applauded and pessimistic. Applauded means admiring and pessimistic means something that has negative opinions about. So यहाँ पर we can say that they were not applauded or pessimistic, denounced and tolerant. Now two opposite words or two opposite attributes are coming together, denounced and tolerant. If someone would have been tolerant, then they would have honored that his paintings then and there only. So you cannot say that they were denounced and tolerant. Acclaimed and rigid, again this is also opposite word, so we cannot say that option D is also correct. The correct answer is censured, a negative word, hypercritical, a negative word, and both these negative word just sums up to the answer of this question. Next question. What does the next question say? Again, inference based question. From the passage it can be inferred that Max Brod, who was a writer and he was discussed in the last paragraphs, so correct answer option A was the opinion that France had not reached out the right critics. Option B, decried France's writing. Option C, considered it unsacred and destroyed at any manuscript. Option D, valued, appreciated and valued फ्रेंड्स वर्क. सो यहाँ पर अगर हम बात करें कि मैक्स ब्रॉड का जो काम है, सो मैक्स ब्रॉड ने जो है मैक्स ब्रॉड के काम को क्या करा गया. सो ऑप्शन ए वॉज ऑफ द ओपिनियन दैट फ्रांस हैज नॉट रीच टू द राइट क्रिटिक्स, कि भाई फ्रांस जो है वो ढंग के क्रिटिक्स के पास नहीं पहुंचा. सो ऑप्शन ए इज नॉट द करेक्ट वन, कि भाई ऑप्शन ए वुड बी द करेक्ट वन. दिस इज नॉट द करेक्ट वन. डिक्राइड फ्रांसिस राइटिंग, no. Option C, considered it unsacred and to destroy any manuscript. No. He appreciated and valued France's work. So यहाँ पर he appreciated and valued France's work, that's why he made it published. So the correct answer to this question is option D. Next question, what does the next question say? The word relentlessly in the word can be best replaced by which of the word? When the question is saying you can be best replaced by, then it is asking you about the synonymous. or the synonym of this word, relentlessly. So relentlessly means something that has been done continuously is called as relentlessly. Irresolutely should not be the correct answer. Recklessly or carelessly should not be the correct answer. Unabashedly, unabashed means someone who is very much bold, that is called as unabashedly. Correct answer is unabatedly, that is called as relentlessly. Continuously, that is called as unabatedly. Okay, now the next passage that was given to you was this about cryptocurrencies. Now let's have a look at this passage, what the passage is trying to say to you. Now cryptocurrencies are terrible thing. From the first line itself, that cryptocurrencies are the terrible thing, we can infer that author is not happy about cryptocurrency. फ्रॉम बेसिकली जब हम पैसेज पढ़ते हैं तो हमको ये चीज़ कंटिन्यूसली हर एक लाइन के साथ ये चीज़ ऑब्जर्व करना है दैट व्हाट इज द ऑथर ट्राइंग टू कन्वे, whether the author is happy or not happy about the subject. At least this you should try to analyze from each and every of the passage that you read. So cryptocurrencies are terrible thing. They are essence of Ponzi scheme that whose value is based entirely on the greater fool prepared to buy it. सो अगेन यहाँ पर ऑथर ने जो एग्जाम्पल दिया है दैट इज ऑल्सो वेरी मच सरकास्टिक. सो यहाँ पर द एसेंस ऑफ द पोंजी स्कीम, दे आर द एसेंस ऑफ अ पोंजी स्कीम दैट इट इज सिमिलर टू द पोंजी स्कीम, जिसमें कि जितना बड़ा फूल के एक बहुत ही बड़े फूल को प्रिपेयर किया जाता है, एक बड़े बेवकूफ़ को प्रिपेयर किया जाता है कि वो इस पोंजी स्कीम में कुछ बाय कर ले, प्रिपेयर टू बाय इट. द प्रॉमिस ऑफ alchemy turning lead into gold has bewitched humanity throughout the ages and cryptocurrencies are just the latest alchemy. So यहाँ पर ये बोला है कि alchemy जो कि lead को alchemy turning lead into gold, lead means सीसा, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज लेड. तो लेड जो है उसको गोल्ड में कन्वर्ट कर सकती है एल्केमी. सो यही सेम चीज जिन्होंने बेविच किया है ह्यूमैनिटी को, बीविच मीन्स अट्रैक्टेड, bewitched means attracted humanity throughout the ages and cryptocurrencies are just the latest alchemy. So basically it is again comparing a quality or again comparing a work that has made humanity a fool throughout these ages and now are the cryptocurrencies that are replacing that alchemy. Now do not get me wrong, if rich people want to lose their money in this or any other way, they should be allowed to do so. The rich should be the vanguards of new things in case something unforeseen or good falls out of them. Now, but we need to protect those vulnerable consumers whose lives are such that almost any get-rich-quick schemes will be seductive and 7 out of 10 times they will lose their life savings. So basically, we can say that the attitude of the author is of bitter acceptance that okay, it is okay for those who are rich, but for those who are vulnerable, for those who would just give away all their life savings into this scheme, we should save such people from these kinds of scheme because they might seem seductive, they might seem attractive to such consumers who want to get rich in just a flick. Now, cryptocurrencies are today's South Sea bubble. Now, South Sea bubble, one of the earliest recorded financial bubbles that took place in 1720s Britain. Meme-based currencies like Dogecoin, Dogelon Mars, Doji Dash remind me of the infamous plan of one company during the South Sea bubble to raise money for carrying on an undertaking of great advantage but nobody to know what it is. So यहाँ पर एक example दिया है author ने about the South Sea bubble. South Sea bubble का author दिया है. Now infamous plan, infamous means something that is not good, something that is bad, something that is not worth is called as infamous. So यहाँ पर जो है कि भाई एक infamous, एक बहुत ही खराब प्लान जो था उस कंपनी का ड्यूरिंग द साउथ सी बबल कि भाई आप अपने पैसे इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं टू रेज मनी फॉर कैरिंग ऑन एन अंडरटेकिंग कि भाई हम एक ऐसी अंडरटेकिंग कैरी ऑन कर रहे हैं जिसमें बहुत ज़्यादा एडवांटेजेस हैं, हम एक ऐसा काम करने वाले हैं जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा एडवांटेजेस रहेगा, बहुत ज़्यादा बेनिफिशियल रहेगा आप लोगों के लिए अपना पैसे को रेस करने के लिए. नाउ द क्रिप्टो करेंसी बबल इज वर्स दैन ट्यूलिप मेनिया. नाउ ट्यूलिप मेनिया वॉज ऑल्सो वन सच स्कीम in which I think that tulips were to bought by these people, and tulip farms were to be bought by these people in order to gain money, or in order to gain the benefits of that farm. So though the whale of technology, cryptocurrency enthusiasts are leaning on policymakers to permit them to be exempt from regulation, privatize money, and make money so disconnected from the economy that it would reap फाइनेंशियल डिजास्टर. नाउ इट इज सेइंग कि यहाँ पर इन द वेल ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, कि भाई टेक्नोलॉजी की आड़ में, इन द वेल ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, so in cryptocurrency enthusiasts are leaning on policymaker, that in the disguise of technology, cryptocurrency enthusiasts are leaning, or are trying to make that make the policymakers are trying to just basically try to convince the policymakers that their cryptocurrency should be exempted means they should be excluded from the regulations. They should be allowed to privatize money, ताकि जो मनी है वो इतना डिस्कनेक्टेड हो जाए इकोनॉमी से कि भाई एक बहुत ही ज़्यादा फाइनेंशियल डिजास्टर जो है वो कहीं ना कहीं सो हो रहा है, या कहीं ना कहीं जो है वो बढ़ जाएगा. नाउ देयर आर मेनी रीजंस टू अवॉइड फाइनेंशियल डिजास्टर्स, बट वन ऑफ देम इज दैट दे रश अप पॉवर्टी एंड इनइक्वालिटी. सो अगेन यहाँ पर फाइनेंशियल डिजास्टर जो है उसके बहुत सारे रीज़न है कि भाई हम फाइनेंशियल डिजास्टर जो है वो अवॉइड क्यों करना चाहते हैं. लेकिन इसका सबसे बड़ी रीज़न जिसकी वजह से हम ये फाइनेंशियल डिजास्टर नहीं चाहते हैं, बिकॉज यहाँ पर जैसे ही फाइनेंशियल डिजास्टर हुआ नहीं, वैसे ही पोवर्टी और इनइक्वालिटी बढ़ी नहीं. नाउ द करंट मनी क्रेडिट सिस्टम इज नॉट परफेक्ट, बट लाइक डेमोक्रेसी इट इज द वर्स्ट सिस्टम बारिंग ऑल अदर्स. यहाँ पर ये जो हम बात कर रहे हैं मनी क्रेडिट सिस्टम का, ये भी कोई परफेक्ट सिस्टम नहीं है, लेकिन जैसे डेमोक्रेसी है, बट लाइक डेमोक्रेसी इट इज़ अ वर्स्ट सिस्टम बैरिंग ऑल अदर्स. लेकिन ये कहीं ना कहीं बाकी जो दूसरे सिस्टम है कहीं ना कहीं उसको प्रोहिबिट करता है, कहीं ना कहीं उसको बार करता है. इट हैज़ इवॉल्व फ्रॉम द एशेस ऑफ द सिस्टम. क्रिप्टोकरेंसी एंथुजियास्ट्स आर ट्राइंग टू रीसेलेक्ट. नाउ क्रिप्टोकरेंसी के जो एंथुजियास्ट है, दे आर ट्राइंग टू रीसेलेक्ट, और दे आर ट्राइंग टू रिकवर since they are evolved from the ashes of the system, because they do क्योंकि system जो है वो cryptocurrency को accept नहीं कर रहा है, so it has evolved from the ashes of the system. Cryptocurrency enthusiasts are trying to resurrect or trying to recover basically. Now the current system is vulnerable to attack because money is little understood. Cryptocurrency enthusiasts have attracted a following based on the fiction that central bank or government creates money and are busy debasing it in their self-interest. So basically what are cryptocurrency enthusiasts trying to do is they are making, or they are just generating a base. यहाँ पर वो जो है बहुत सारे फॉलोवर्स क्रिएट कर रहे हैं अपने, जस्ट बाय सेइंग दैट कि यहाँ पर गवर्नमेंट बहुत पैसा कमा रही है, जो सेंट्रल बैंक है, जो गवर्नमेंट है, वो बहुत ज़्यादा मनी क्रिएट कर रही है, लेकिन वो आर बिजी डिबेसिंग इट इन देयर सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट. लेकिन वो जो है उसी पैसे को जो है खुद के सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट के लिए लगा रही है. सो अगर हम बात करें, ये जो व्यू पॉइंट है क्रिप्टोकरेंसी एंथुजियास्ट का, इट इज मोर और लेस सिनिकल इन नेचर. इसी व्यू पॉइंट को हम क्या कहते हैं, दैट इट इज सिनिकल इन नेचर. नाउ दिस इज नॉट द केस, बट देन अगेन देयर इज सम ओवरलैप बिटवीन क्रिप्टोकरेंसी advocates, conspiracy theories and anti-vaxxers. The time has come for someone to stand up for the current fiat money system and explain that while it could be better still, it has been associated with far more growth, much more disturbed, and has responded better to economic crisis than what come before. So यहाँ पर जो है author is saying that ये केस नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी कुछ overlap है. There is some overlap between cryptocurrency advocates, conspiracy theorists and anti-vaxxers. The time has come for someone कि यहाँ पर किसी ना किसी को खड़ा होकर ये बताना पड़ेगा कि cryptocurrency is not that much better. Then it is saying that in today's money credit system, banks create more money when they issue a loan and place a loan's proceeds into the account of their customer, creating a deposit. Money is in fact a tradable debt. Money जो है वो एक tradable debt है. Now the bank's deposit can be used as cash Because the bank is a regulated issuer of loans and deposit taker, which gives the deposit credibility and convertibility, the central bank only influences the creation of money indirectly by its regulatory requirement that a proportion of the loans need to be funded by shareholders' profit. Now they need to have skin in the game. Money creation then is based on thousands of separate decisions by loan officers and is more distributed than a centralized algorithm like बिटकॉइन. सो यहाँ पर ऑथर इज ट्राइंग टू से कि मनी क्रिएशन जो है यहाँ पर ज़्यादा डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड है अगर हम बैंक्स की बात करें, और अगर हम कंपेयर करते हैं दैट टू विद बिटकॉइन विच इज़ वन ऑफ द क्रिप्टो करेंसी, सो वहाँ पर एक बहुत ही सेंट्रलाइज्ड एल्गोरिदम है. यहाँ पर अगर हम बैंक्स की बात करते हैं जो लोन्स इशू करते हैं, जो रेगुलेट करते हैं मनी का सेंट्रलाइजेशन, मनी की डिपॉजिट की क्रेडिबिलिटी या कन्वर्टेबिलिटी, तो वहाँ पर एक बहुत ही डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड अप्रोच रहती है. एंड इट सप्लाई इज डिटरमाइंड बाय द प्राइवेट डिमांड फॉर लोन्स विच मीन्स इट इज क्लोजली अलाइंड टू द इकोनॉमी. अगर हम बात करते हैं लोन्स की, सो यहाँ पर इट सप्लाई इज डिटरमाइंड बाय प्राइवेट डिमांड फॉर लोन एंड विच मीन्स इट इज क्लोजली अलाइन टू द इकोनॉमी, जो कि कहीं ना कहीं हद तक ये बताता है कि भाई ये इकोनॉमी से बहुत ही क्लोजली कनेक्टेड है. नाउ कमिंग टू द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन दैट फॉलोज दिस पैसेज, Which of the following best describes the attitude of the author towards the rich people? यहाँ पर अगर हम बात करें तो rich people के बारे में सिर्फ एक ही लाइन यहाँ पर बहुत ही स्पेसिफिकली दी गई थी कि rich people जिनको अपने रुपए उड़ाने हैं they could do so, but we have to be concerned about those people who would get attracted with this type of scheme and would just invest their whole life saving. So he is not concerned, he is not assiduous, he is not sympathetic, he is basically indifferent towards rich people, he is emotionless or he is detached towards the rich people. Next question that follows, which of the following is true in the context of the passage? According to the passage, which of the following is true? The author defends the current money credit system. The author rejects the idea that central bank and government create money and are busy debasing in their self-interest. Option C, the author backs the protection of poor from the menace of cryptocurrency. And option D, all of the above. So here the author defends the current money credit system. Yes, the author is defending it. The author rejects the idea that central bank or government creates money and are busy debasing it. Yes, the author rejects this idea. The author backs the protection of poor. Yes, when we are saying author backs, it means author supports. That is called as backs. So the correct answer is C also. So the correct answer to this question is all of the above, because all the statements are true to its context. Next question. Which rhetorical device is employed in cryptocurrencies are just the latest alchemy? यहाँ पर कौन सी लिटरेरी डिवाइस यूज हुई है जब हम बोल रहे हैं कि क्रिप्टो करेंसी जो है वो सिर्फ एक लेटेस्ट एल्केमी है? यहाँ पर क्रिप्टो करेंसी इज लाइक द लेटेस्ट एल्केमी is not given, so we cannot say. यहाँ पर personification use नहीं हुआ है because किसी को भी human attributes नहीं दिए हैं, so not personification is used. Synecdoche means that when the whole system or the whole thing is represented by its integral part, that is called as synecdoche. So alchemy is not integral part of any of the things, so we cannot say that synecdoche is used here. Antithesis means something that was done before is just reversed in here, so that is called as antithesis. The antithesis is also not there. The correct answer to this question is option B, that is metaphor. Next question, which of the following does best describes the passage की यहाँ पर basically the question is asking you about the rhetorical mode. The question is asking you about the rhetorical mode, that whether what was the rhetorical mode in the passage, whether the passage was argumentative and explanatory, whether it was descriptive and argumentative, whether it was narrative and explanatory, and whether it is expository and argumentative. When we are trying to say that it is expository simply means that there must be facts and figures. In the whole passage, it was just about the discussion, what was the viewpoints of the author. So we cannot say that it was expository and argumentative. It wasn't narrative also. The author was not narrative in its approach. Then comes argumentative and explanatory, descriptive and argumentative. The author was also not that much descriptive in his approach, so we cannot say that it is descriptive. The correct answer is the author was more or less argumentative, because he was arguing about, he was trying to defend crypto, he was trying to defend the money credit system. He was again trying to basically dismiss the idea of cryptocurrency. So we can say that yes, the passage was argumentative, and at the same time he was very much explanatory. He was very much explaining about each and everything, that why he thinks so. So yes, we can say that it was explanatory also, it wasn't descriptive passage, क्योंकि यहाँ पर कई ऐसे words थे, कई ऐसे phrases थे that author has not described them. So we cannot say that it was descriptive. The correct answer is that the passage was more or less argumentative as well as explanatory. Coming to the next question, what does the next question says? Now, what do the cryptocurrency enthusiasts rely on? Cryptocurrency के जो enthusiast है, वो किस चीज़ पे rely करते हैं? Option A, exemption from regulation. Option B, yes, they were relying on exemption from regulation. Privatization of money, that was there. Disconnection of money from the economy, that was also there. So the correct answer is option D, that is all of the above would be the correct answer. Now the next passage that was given to you people, or the fourth passage that was given to you people, is this one. Now let's have a look at what this passage is trying to say. Now the fact that Gaia in her monstrous avatar decided to distribute fossil fuels very unevenly across the earth has been central to the emergence of the world's current geopolitical order. From the vitalist point of view, what is meant by vitalist is important. Something that is important is called as vital. So vitalist means important or very important. From the important point of view, it could be said that the wars of 20th century were won as much as by fossilized energy of botanical matter as by particular groups of humans. So again, it is discussing about the fossil fuels and the distribution of fossil fuels basically on the earth, and he is saying that Gaia in her monstrous avatar decided to distribute the fossil fuels. So it is just describing a creature that was distributing fossil fuels across the earth. Now in the First World War, the author is saying that First World War, Germany's lack of oil put it to a huge disadvantage against the Allies, more or less ensuring its defeat. The shortage of oil effectively cancelled the technological advantages of Germany enjoyed at the start of the war, despite having a large fleet. Fleet means what? Fleet simply means a group of warships, that is called as fleet. Group of warships is called as fleet. For instance, it was unable to use any of its navy effectively because of its coal burning ships needed to refuel every 11 days. Because क्योंकि उसकी coal burning ship को हर 11 days में refuel करना होता था. So यहाँ पर जो पहले advantage था जर्मनी के लिए, अब ये disadvantage में बदल गया. Next is saying conversely, the assured supply of American oil conferred so great an advantage on Britain and France, जबकि अमेरिका का जो benefit रहा ब्रिटेन और फ्रांस को, that it would be supplying oil. It would be fairly stated that war was won for the Western Allies by the tankers. So by the tankers simply mean by the oil tankers, or because of the oil, the World War was won by the Western Allies. Now, not for nothing was it said that of the First World War that Britain, France and US floated to the victory on a sea of soil. Again, it is a metaphorical phrase that the Britain, France and US floated on the victory on a sea of soil, and it is referred to the same thing that because of the oil they have won against Germany. So it is saying that they have a victory on the sea of oil. He is just demonstrating, or he is just metaphorizing their victory with that, or because of that oil. Now in the Second World War, the shortage of oil was even more critical for the defeat of Axis powers. Now the German Luftwaffe was forced to rely on synthetic fuels. Rely means trust or depend. that is called as rely. So German Luftwaffe was forced to rely on the synthetic fuels derived from coal. This could not provide the high octane energy that was needed for high compression aero engines, and it was largely due to the inferior engines. Now in German aircraft, basically inferior engines were there that would need high octane energy, and this synthetic coal could not give that high octane energy to these engines, that the Luftwaffe lost the Battle of Britain, and as a result of which Germany has lost the Battle of Britain. Now the shortage of oil also dictated Germany's war strategy. It was in order to seize the oil fields of the Caucasus that the Germany army pushed eastward into the Soviet Union in 1942. So basically German का defeat हर एक battle में किसकी वजह से रहा है, according to the passages, because of the deficiency of right type of oil or right type of fuel or right type of fossil fuels that was needed at the time of war. Next, it is saying that army pushed eastward into the Soviet Union, means the oil fields that Germany has seized has pushed it into the Soviet Union in 1942, leading to a defeat at Stalingrad, from which it never recovered. Now Japan's invasion of the Dutch East Indies was similarly forced by its lack of oil. Now Japan का invasion was because of the lack of oil. In short, over the course of 20th century, access to oil became the central focus of global geopolitical strategy. Excess of oil has become the focus of geopolitical strategy. For a great power to be able to ensure or hinder the flow of oil was to have a thumb of the jugglers of its adversaries. Now those who would have a power or who would have superiority over the oil would be the most powerful in 20th century. Now in the first part of the 20th century, the guarantor of the flow of oil was Britain. In the first part of the century, the guarantor of the flow of oil was Britain. After the Second World War, the baton means mashal जिसको हम कहते हैं, that is called as baton. Now the baton was passed along with a string of British naval bases to the US. अब ये कमान जो है वो संभाल ली है, किसने संभाली है? यूएस ने संभाल ली है, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ने संभाल ली है. नाउ द रोल ऑफ गारंटर ऑफ ग्लोबल एनर्जी फ्लोज इज स्टिल क्रूशियल टू द यूएस strategic dominance and its position as a global hegemon. Hegemon simply means leader. Hegemon means leader. That because of that, in order to gain leadership, America has become the hegemon of oil supply. Now today, as Elizabeth DeLogre has pointed out, US energy policy has become increasingly militarized and secured by the Navy, the largest oceanic force on the planet. So it has becoming increasingly militarized. The energy policy has becoming increasingly militarized, and it is also secured by Navy, the largest oceanic force on the planet. In the words of historian Michael Clare, the Iraq War of 2003 marked the transformation of US military into a global oil protection service, guarding pipelines, refineries and loading facilities in the Middle East and elsewhere. It means in order to gain the oil, America has militarized its energy policy. Now it is important to note that the strategic value of controlling oil flows is tangentially related to US's energy requirements. So it is tangentially means not that much, it is dependent. It means that slight dependence is there on the energy requirements. से कि भाई कंट्रोल कर रहा है वो ऑयल फ्लोज को, तो इसका मतलब है कि वो कहीं ना कहीं कुछ हद तक जो है उसकी ऑयल एनर्जी रिक्वायरमेंट्स की वजह से है. Now the period in which the American military was turning into a global oil protection service was one of the in which US was well on its way reducing its dependence on the imported oil. तो यहाँ पर जब वो basically जब वो लीड कर रहा है एक ऑयल अपने लीड कर रहा है ऑयल टैंक्स को या फिर लीड कर रहा है ऑयल फ्लो को, तो ये वही टाइम था जब उसने ऑयल से इंपोर्टेड ऑयल से अपनी डिपेंडेंसी कहीं ना कहीं ख़त्म कर दी थी. Now, the fact that US is now self-sufficient in fossil fuels has no way diminishing the strategic importance of oil as an instrument of projection of power. और जब हमको ये पता है that US जो है self-sufficient है fossil fuels के अंदर, तो हम नहीं कह सकते हैं कि ऑयल का एक स्ट्रैटेजिक इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं होता है या फ्यूल का एक स्ट्रैटेजिक इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं होता है, क्योंकि हम देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर अमेरिका का स्ट्रैटेजिक इंपॉर्टेंस इसी वजह से है कि यहाँ पर कहीं ना कहीं उसकी एक हेजमनी है ओवर द फ्यूल. Now it is the ability to deny energy supplies to rivals that is strategically of central importance. क्योंकि यहाँ पर अब उसके पास एक जो है upper hand है that he would deny the energy supply, he would deny the fuel to the rivals, क्योंकि यही एक strategically that is strategically of central importance, which is just trying to say that it is of very much importance. So basically the whole passage was dependent upon the fuel, that how important is the fuel, and in order to gain victory or in order to gain hegemony, global hegemony, you should have less dependence on imported oil, or you should have a control over the fossil fuels or the energy or the energies basically. Now, or the fuel energy, or you can say the fossil fuel energy. Now coming to the questions that follows this passage, what is the central idea of the passage? The question is that what is the central or main idea of the passage? So option A, fossil fuels in war making, not only in war making but in all the other things also. So option A we should opt out. Strategic value of fossil fuels in US dominance in the world could be the answer. Could be. Role of fossil fuels in modern geopolitical order. Now option B is also correct and option C is also correct, but the thing is, when we are saying about the central idea, the thing that encompasses everything in just a single line should be the main idea of the passage. Now it is just saying, in this particular statement, it is just saying about US dominance, and in this option C, role of fossil fuel in the modern geopolitical order. So it is just describing the main idea or the central idea without the regards or without just emphasizing on only one point. So the correct answer is option C, distribution of fossil fuels in the world. That is not the correct one. So correct answer here is option C. Next question, what is the cause of Germany's defeat in the First World War? It was because of the shortage of oil basically in First World War, because हर 11 days में उनको refuel करना होता था. So because of the shortage of oil, weakness of Germany's navy, Germany की navy भी weak थी, और Britain और France को advantage था that America was the oil provider there. So we can say that all these above consequences or all these above circumstances has led to the Germany's defeat. Next question, which of the following should be inferred, could be inferred from Michael Clare's opinion on the US military? US military के लिए Michael Clare का जो opinion है उससे हम क्या infer कर सकते हैं? Option A, the US military interferes with energy needs of other countries. No. Option B, the US energy policy has become increasingly militarized. Now ये चीज हम infer कर सकते हैं, लेकिन ये चीज माइकल क्लेयर ने नहीं कही थी. That's why option A is not correct one. Option B could be the answer. Option C, the US has changed energy policy drastically. That is also the thing that we cannot infer from Michael Clare's words. Option D, the US has fully understood the strategic value of controlling oil flows. That the author was saying, not Michael Clare. So we cannot say that option D is also the correct one. So the correct answer to this question is option B. US energy policy has become increasingly militarized. Next question that follows this passage was this. Now what does the phrase tangentially related to this mean? Tangentially का मतलब क्या होता है? Something that is not directly but something that is very slightly related to something, that is called as tangentially. Because as you people know that for a circle tangent is like this. So यहाँ पर tangent जो है वो बहुत ही कम पॉइंट्स पर जो है वो सर्कल से स्टिक रहता है, सर्कल से अधेड़ रहता है. सो सिमिलरली यहाँ पर जब बात करी है टेंजेंशियली की, इसका मतलब सिर्फ बाहर की साइड से, ओनली पेरिफेरी एंड स्लाइटली. So would be the correct answer. So correct answer to this question is related only slightly and peripherally. Now जब हम बात करते हैं tangentially की, then we should deny this centrally or centrally or directly. So centrally or directly नहीं होगा, it is just slightly and peripherally. Next question that follows, or the last question that follows this particular passage, is this one. What makes the US strategically dominating global hegemon? Capacity of US to provide oil protection, guarding pipelines, refineries and loading facilities. Option B, increasingly militarized energy policy of US Navy and the largest oceanic force on the planet. Option C, the role of US as a guarantor of global energy flows. So as a guarantor of global energy flows could be the answer. Option D, all of the above. So यहाँ पर when it is saying that it is of strategical dominant, or it is strategically dominating global hegemon, what makes US strategically dominating global hegemon? So it is the only thing that he is now a guarantor of global energy flows. Global means वर्ल्ड के अंदर ग्लोबल एनर्जी फ्लो का गारंटर वही है, वो चाहे तो किसी को भी डिनाई कर सकता है, चाहे तो किसी को भी अप्रूव कर सकता है. दिस वुड बी द करेक्ट वन. वो मिलिटराइज्ड एनर्जी पॉलिसी हो गई है या फिर ऑयल प्रोटेक्शन है, तो वो सिर्फ यूएस के लिए है. ग्लोबली उसकी हेजमनी इस चीज से नहीं बढ़ सकती है. सो करेक्ट आंसर इज ऑप्शन सी, द रोल ऑफ यूएस एज अ गारंटर ऑफ ग्लोबल एनर्जी फ्लोज वुड बी द करेक्ट वन. Then comes the last passage that was there in your CLAT 2022 paper. Let's have a look at this. Now, the modern animal rights movement, which originated in 1970s, may be understood as a reaction to dominant emphasis with science and religion. When the Jesuit Joseph Rickaby wrote in 1888 that brute beasts, not having understanding and therefore not being persons, cannot have any rights, and that we have no duties of charity or duties of any kind to the lower animals, as neither to stocks and stones. He was only articulating, albeit in an extreme form, the moral insensitivity that has characterized the Western view of animals. Albeit simply means although. Although means albeit. So the modern animal rights movement which originated, modern animal rights movement जो कि 1970s में originate हुआ था, उसको जो है understood किया जा सकता था कि भाई basically तब emphasis ज़्यादा दिया जाता था साइंस पे और religion पे. लेकिन जब जोसेफ रिकबे ने लिखा 1888 में कि ब्रूट बीस्ट नॉट हैविंग अंडरस्टैंडिंग एंड देयरफॉर नॉट बीइंग पर्सन्स कैन नॉट हैव एनी राइट्स, क्योंकि ब्रूट बीस्ट जो बीस्ट होते हैं या जो एनिमल्स होते हैं, क्योंकि उनमें अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं है और क्योंकि वो इंसान नहीं है, तो उनके कोई राइट्स भी नहीं होने चाहिए. एंड दैट वी हैव नो ड्यूटीज ऑफ चैरिटी एंड ड्यूटी टू एनी काइंड ऑफ लोअर एनिमल्स एज नीदर टू स्टॉक्स और स्टोन्स. और इसलिए हमारी किसी भी तरह की कोई ड्यूटी नहीं बनती है लोअर एनिमल्स के प्रति, ना तो किसी स्टॉक्स की और ना ही स्टोन्स की. He was only articulating, although in an extreme form, the moral insensitivity that has characterized the Western view of animals. So यहाँ पर basically वो क्या चीज़ कर रहा था, वो सिर्फ articulate कर रहा था. He was just projecting, although in an extreme form, बहुत ही extreme form में वो सिर्फ project कर रहा था moral insensitivity को, जो कि characterize करती है Western view of animals को. एनिमल्स के प्रति जो वेस्टर्न व्यू है उसको कैरेक्टराइज करती है ये जो इसने वर्ड्स लिखे हैं कि क्योंकि इनमें कोई अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं है तो इनके कोई राइट्स भी नहीं है. नाउ दैट इनसेंसिटिविटी इज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ एन अमेलगम ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंस. व्हेन वी आर सेइंग अमेलगम, इट मींस मिक्सचर और मर्जर. दैट इज कॉल्ड एज अमेलगम. Mixture. So that insensitivity is because of the mixture of influences, not because only certain things have influence. There are many things that would influence this particular view. Now the first and for many years the most dominant was the otherworldly or world denying tendency in Christianity, which has at its worst denigrated the value of earthly things in comparison with things that are spiritual. So it has denigrated. Denigrated means belittled or made something inferior. That is called as denigrated. Lost the value of, decreased the value of, that is called as denigrated. So यहाँ पर what the author is trying to say that this the first and for many years कि ये पहला और उसके बाद बहुत सारे years तक most years the dominant The most dominant was the otherworldly or world denying टेंडेंसी इन क्रिश्चियनिटी, कि भाई क्रिश्चियनिटी में जो टेंडेंसी थी कि भाई वो सबसे ज़्यादा मानते थे जो अदर वर्ल्डली चीज़ें हैं, इस दुनिया की नहीं, जो इस दुनिया के बाहर की जो चीज़ें, जो या फिर वो चीज़ें जो इस दुनिया को जो है डिनाई करती हैं, उन चीज़ों के बारे में वो ज़्यादा जो है उससे उसकी तरफ इंक्लाइंड थे या उसकी तरफ डिस्पोज्ड थे. नाउ विच हैज़ एट इट्स वर्ड्स डेनिग्रेटेड द वैल्यू ऑफ अर्थली थिंग्स इन कंपैरिजन टू द थिंग्स विच आर स्पिरिचुअल. तो यहाँ पर अर्थ पे जो चीज़ें थी, अर्थ पे जो लिविंग बींग्स थे, उनकी वैल्यू कहीं ना कहीं these things were just declining the values of these things and were in comparison to those things that was having spiritual influence or spiritual values. Now traditional Catholicism has divided the world into those beings that possess reason and therefore immortal souls and those that do not. So basically the author is saying that जो Catholicism है, it has divided the world into two things that possess reason and therefore immortal soul, जिनका कोई reason है यहाँ पर रहने का और जो immortal souls है, और दूसरा जो कि जिनका यहाँ पर रहने का कोई रीज़न ही नहीं है और immortal souls है. Now Christian spirituality has not consciously been at home with the world of non-human creature, either animal or vegetable. So it means that Christian spirituality is not associated with these things such as animals or vegetable. Classic accounts of eternal life as found in Augustine of Hippo, Thomas Aquinas and John Calvin make little or no reference to the world of animals. So यहाँ पर अगर हम accounts देखें, यहाँ पर classical account means the writings basically, that is called as classical accounts. So यहाँ पर अगर हम writings देखें Augustine of Hippo, Thomas Aquinas या John Calvin की, so it is not making any reference to the world of animals. Animals, it seems, are merely transient or peripheral beings in an otherwise wholly human-centric economy of salvation. So basically they were considering that this earth belongs to only humans, not of animals, and they are not worthy on this planet. Now the second idea common to Christianity, Judaism and Islam is that animals along with vegetables and minerals exist instrumentally in relation to human beings. So यहाँ पर एक दूसरी कॉमन जो चीज़ थी वो ये थी, किसके अंदर कॉमन चीज़ थी, जुडाइज़म में क्रिश्चियनिटी में और इस्लाम में, कि यहाँ पर एनिमल्स अलॉन्ग विथ वेजिटेबल्स एंड मिनरल्स, वेजिटेबल और मिनरल्स जो है मिनरल्स ये सब बेसिकली इसलिए एग्जिस्ट करते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ ह्यूमन बींग्स. दे आर मेड फॉर ह्यूमन बींग्स, इवन बिलोंग टू ह्यूमन बींग्स एज रिसोर्सेज इन क्रिएशन, कि भाई ये ह्यूमन बींग्स के लिए ही बनाए गए हैं और उनको कंज्यूम करना ह्यूमन बींग्स का हक है. नाउ दिस आइडिया प्रीडेट्स क्रिश्चियनिटी एंड इज फाउंड नोटेबली इन एरिस्टोटल हु आर्ग्यूज दैट. सो यहाँ पर ये आइडिया एक तरह से प्रीडेट करती है क्रिश्चियनिटी को, एक तरह से कहीं ना कहीं क्रिश्चियनिटी के जो व्यूज़ है उनको प्रीडेट करती है, या फिर हम कह सकते हैं कि कहीं ना कहीं उस चीज़ को ये ख़त्म कर देते हैं. That since nature makes nothing to any purpose, it must be that nature has made them for the sake of man. यहाँ पर ये चीज़ एरिस्टोटल के इसमें भी पाई जाती है कि एरिस्टोटल ये बोल रहे हैं कि नेचर जो है वो कोई भी ऐसी चीज़ मेक्स नथिंग टू एनी पर्पस, कोई भी चीज़ किसी पर्पस से नहीं बनाती है. सो इट मस्ट बी दैट नेचर हैज़ मेड देम फॉर द सेक ऑफ मैन. इट मीन्स सिंस नेचर मेक्स नथिंग टू एनी पर्पस, इट मस्ट बी कि भाई यहाँ पर नेचर ने इनको जो बनाया है वो ह्यूमन बींग्स के लिए बनाया है. दिस आइडिया लार्जली अनसपोर्टेड बाय स्क्रिप्चर वॉज नेवरदलेस टेकन ओवर बाय एक्विनस, who conceived the creation as in rational hierarchy in which intellectually inferior existed for the sake of intellectually superior. Again, ये जो idea है largely unsupported by scripture was nevertheless taken over by Aquinas. Aquinas ने बोला है कि ये जो rational hierarchy है, जो practical hierarchy है, जिसमें जो intellectually superior है या फिर जो इंटेलेक्चुअली इन्फीरियर है वो एग्जिस्ट ही इसीलिए करते हैं ताकि वो इंटेलेक्चुअली सुपीरियर के लिए ही एग्जिस्ट करते हैं जो इंटेलेक्चुअली इन्फीरियर है. नाउ सच इंस्ट्रूमेंटलिज्म विच फीचर्स रैशनैलिटी एज द की फैक्टर डिवाइडिंग ह्यूमन फ्रॉम ब्रूट बीस्ट. सो यहाँ पर ये जो इंस्ट्रूमेंटलिज्म है जो वो फीचर्स जो है रैशनैलिटी के या प्रैक्टिकलिटी के जो कि की फैक्टर है जो कि डिवाइड करते हैं ह्यूमन बीइंग को विद दैट ऑफ ब्रूट बीस्ट, हैज इन टर्न बटरेस्ड द थर्ड इन्फ्लुएंस, नेमली द नोशन ऑफ ह्यूमन सुपेरियरिटी इन क्रिएशन। और इनके जो थर्ड इन्फ्लुएंस जो ये इस पर्टिकुलर सोच का आता है, ये इस पर्टिकुलर थ्योरी का आता है, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द नोशन ऑफ ह्यूमन सुपेरियरिटी इन क्रिएशन। Now, human superiority need not by itself have led to the neglect of animal life, but when combined with the biblical ideas of being made. Now, when we are saying that biblical ideas simply means something that is taken from Bible, is called as biblical. So it is saying that superiority need not by itself have led to the neglect of animal life, but when combined with biblical ideas of being made in the image of God, the God's preferential choice to become incarnate in human form, some sense of moral as well as theological ascendancy that was indicated. As a result, Christianity and to a lesser extent Judaism have been characterized historically by an overwhelming concern of humanity in creation rather than an egalitarian concern for all forms of God given life. So basically अगर हम बात करें Christianity की, Judaism की, तो यहाँ पर ये दोनों ही जो religions हैं, they are not considering or they are not perceiving an egalitarian view for all the living beings that were made by God, or the forms of God given life, that humans are more important than animals. They are just saying humans are more important than animals, and animals and vegetables are made for the use of human beings now, and they self-evidently merit moral solicitude in a way that animals cannot, has become religious doctrine. Animals जो है उनके लिए कोई religious doctrine नहीं है. Thus catechism of the Catholic Church maintains that it is unworthy to spend money on them, कि भाई यहाँ पर कैटेकिज्म कहता है एनिमल्स पे मनी स्पेंड नहीं करने चाहिए, दैट शुड एज प्रायोरिटी गो टू द रिलीफ ऑफ ह्यूमन मिजरी, और प्रायोरिटाइज करो अपने मनी को कि अगर आप एनिमल्स को दे रहे हो इसकी बजाय तो ह्यूमन मिजरी मतलब कि ह्यूमैनिटी से रिलेटेड कोई काम करना चाहिए. दीज इन्फ्लुएंसेस हैव टर्न in turn enabled and justified the scientific exploration of the natural world and specifically the subjection of animals to experimentation. और यही जो व्यूज है, इन्हीं व्यूज की वजह से क्या हुआ कि जो साइंटिफिक एक्सप्लोरेशन है नेचुरल वर्ल्ड का, कि भाई जो साइंटिस्ट नेचुरल वर्ल्ड के बारे में जानने के लिए सबसे ज्यादा जो एक्सप्लोर करते हैं, या फिर इन माय वर्ड सबसे ज्यादा जो एक्सप्लॉइट करते हैं, they are in specifically the subjection of animals to experimentation. They usually exploit animals for their experimentation. Now, Francis Bacon pursued his scientific investigation in the belief that humanity should recover that right over nature which belongs to it by divine bequest. So, यहाँ पर Francis Bacon ने अपनी pursue की scientific investigation in the belief that humanity should recover that right over nature which belongs to it by divine bequest. René Descartes famously likened the movements of a swallow to workings of a clock and maintained that there is no prejudice to which we are more accustomed from our earliest years than the belief that dumb animals think. So basically the whole passage was about किस चीज के बारे में था पूरा पैसेज. दिस पैसेज वाज अबाउट दैट ह्यूमंस why there is a tendency or why there is a thinking in various religions that human are superior to all. Human जो है वो सबके superior हैं, and all the other things that are peripheral to humans or that are secondary to humans and are only made in order for humans or for the sake of humans to consume. Now let's have a look at the first question that follows this passage. Joseph Rickaby articulation on animals may be termed as what? Option A, ecocentric view of animals. Option B, anthropocentric view of animals. Option C, ethnocentric view of animals. Or option D, androcentric view of animals. So the correct answer is anthropocentric view of animals. It just simply means anthropocentric means that they were made just for the use of human beings. So we can say that it was an anthropocentric view of animals. Coming back to the next question, according to the author, how did Christianity contribute to insensitivity of the West to the animals. So option A, it denigrated the value of earthly things in comparison with the spiritual things. Yes, Christianity has done this. Option B, divided the world into beings with and without reason. Yes, correct, mentioned in the passage. Option C, it propagated as if animals are transient or peripheral to the human-centric economy of salvation. Yes, it has said so. So the correct answer is that all of the above here are correct. Passage में ये सारे ही points mentioned थे, and so these all of these are correct. Next word, which of the following is closest to the meaning of instrumentalism as used in the passage? Instrumentalism word जो use हुआ है passage में, so यहाँ पर कौन से इसमें से correct है? When we are saying about instrumentalism, it does not mean egalitarianism. So egalitarianism is not the answer. Idealism is also not the answer. The correct answer is pragmatism or something that is of practical use. That is called as pragmatism. So the correct answer is option A here. Next question, let's have a look at next question. Which of the following is not true in context of the passage? That according to the passage, which of the following is not true? Option A, Western philosophy and science are both under the influence of religion. Could be the one. Option B, Western philosophical view on animals have been influenced by religious notions about them. Yes, this is correct. Correct according to the passage. Option C, Western religious notions on animals have justified subjection of animals to scientific experimentation. Yes, this is also correct according to the passage. Option D, some of the scientific views on animals have been influenced by religious notions about them. Yes, not some of them, but most of the scientific views on animals have been influenced by the religious notions about them. So the correct answer to this question is option A, that Western philosophy and science are both under the influence of religion. Last question of the passage was this: it may be inferred from René Descartes' view that option A, it as irrational and assume that animals have awareness and some mental capacities. It means that René Descartes is saying that animals do have mental capacities. So option A. Option B, animals are automata or they act mechanically. Option B is saying that animals are automata and they act mechanically. वो mechanically काम करते हैं. So the correct answer to this question is, when the question is saying it can be inferred from René Descartes' view, so correct answer is option D, that both A and B are correct, because René Descartes was just dissolving, or you can say just dismissing the view that there was that the religious thing, the views of Christianity, that human beings are superior to these and they are just dumb animals. So René Descartes was just dismissing that views. So the correct answer is both A and B, that they are automata and they act mechanically, and it as irrational to assume that animals have awareness and some mental capacities. So यहाँ पर ये क्या बोल रहा है? It is as irrational. Irrational means it is impractical. It is impractical Yes, because in whole of the passage nobody was there, or there was none of the statement that was considering that animals were self-aware, that animals were having that animals were as equal or were as egalitarian as that of humans. So yes, the correct answer is that it is impractical. ये impractical है कि भाई हम assume करें कि animals के अंदर awareness है या कुछ mental capacities है. They are just dumb animals. It was written there that they are just dumb animals, and lastly animals are automata or they act mechanically. They don't have any type of awareness, they don't have any type of sensitivity. So the correct answer is both A and B. So with this, here is this was the last question that was there in your class 2022, and with this I hope you have noted how to approach each and every question कि भाई कोई भी question को किस तरह से approach किया जाता है, चाहे वो central idea वाले passage हो, चाहे वो tone वाले passage हो, चाहे वो vocabulary related passage हो या फिर वो inference related passage हो. I hope now you have got the idea of how you should approach the question paper. We shall meet with CLAT 2023 question paper also in our next session. Till then, thank you students.